Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the Polar Battle Bear. Uh, I'm going to laugh at this one. It is called the Skimmobile. Was first released back in 1983 and was also sold in 84. And then, of course, like so many of these, was discontinued back in 1985. So, uh, we do have some nice pictures here on GIJoe.com. A nice front view. Um, Of course, we got a rear view and we got some side views, and that it's funny because so many years ago when I was in the service, I was trying to explain what a snowmobile is to somebody from down south, and uh, where I see that this is called a skimmobile, it's a snowmobile. It's an armed snowmobile. So um, yeah, they just took a snowmobile and then they and this would is very much like an old 1970s 1980s snowmobile, but we have machine guns and it looks like two small rockets on there. It's still cool, and we did get to see this um, in a couple episodes because they did have a couple episodes that were uh, done in the Arctic or whatever. So we did get a couple views of this. Let's see here. There we are on Sunbow here when they were up in the Arctic, and they had a couple different views of what they felt this would be. And I'm going to say I think that this is a little bit more of oh people that have never really been in the snow, their view of it. Uh, you know, it's funny to me because for everybody that's down in the south, look at your kind of ski-doo jet, kind of like jet craft or whatever, watercraft, right? Well, the basis of that is really what we have for our snowmobiles. So they run pretty much the same. Instead of having the water jets underneath you, we actually have the motors with the treads. So really, that's when you're looking at them, that's kind of what the difference looks like. Um, I know I've been on one. I don't own any, but I've been on one before. They're a lot of fun, and these things can really get up and move. Um, so let's kind of look here. Vehicle for the Arctic operation. Um, it's got two Rampage missiles and twin laser blasters. See, so here's another example where it you know for the few times that I don't know if they ever had this in the cart or in the comic book. It was in the cartoon, but I just don't know if they had it in the comic book. So we have twin 55 millimeter cannons. My God, those are some big cannons. And we've got our two heat-seeking missiles. Um, and this thing can go about, well, it's got 160 horsepower mounted V6 engine. So they got a big old engine on this sucker. Um, these things, depending on how much you want to spend, because I've seen guys get some really high end ones. And I remember years ago when I was working or whatever, somebody had a magazine for these, and this goes back 25 years. And we had some of these that were going about 80, 90 miles an hour. Um, and they were going for about $45,000 way back then. So I can only imagine what they go for today. So it's just a little personal take on some of this. Um, it's an interesting set, though. It really is. It kind of brings, for going up into the Arctic areas or whatever, where you don't really want wheeled vehicles. Um, you do kind of want something like this. So we do have the Polar Battle Bear. We have Rock Sled, uh, Rock Sled ATAV, and then back in 2017 we have the BF 2000 Marauder snowmobile. So they started calling it a snowmobile now. All right, Japan and Australia had some different packaging, so that's kind of interesting here. Okay, so um, here we are with our stats, bringing it into our Star Wars campaign, or however you want to do it. Um, and we have a nice side view, and that these pictures are all coming from GIJoe. So if you ever ask, these are all from GIJoe because if they have pictures of the actual product, that how better to really represent it than a picture of the actual toy that we're trying to recreate in our Star Wars universe for however we want to do it. So um, it's about 8 feet long. We have crew of one, passenger of one. That's kind of a standard for a lot of them. I know that they have an extra shield back here, but um, and this is done a little differently. But yeah, usually we can get about 2 people on a snowmobile. And we have about cargo of about 200 pounds without an extra passenger behind us. I gave it roughly about a 1/4 coverage. Um, it's a lot like having a motorcycle out on the snow. And then I'll even relate a little bit more. People that are from the north and you're watching this, you'll laugh at some of this too, because uh, I'll try and finish the story here. Um, Altitude range, of course, because this is going to be underground, we're not flying or anything. Maneuverability of 2D. We have about 42 miles per hour. I believe I had gotten that off of one of the file cards. Body strength of 3D. I figured that this thing would be a little bit robust, so that's why I gave it that. And then we have our two heavy repeating blasters at personal scale. Fire control of 1D because it's just however you're driving, they're kind of fixed in the front. And I gave it a damage of 6D here. So, oh, and then I didn't give it the missiles because our next one is the snake that we'll try and hit for our next one. Um, if I did want to add the missiles on here, um, well, why don't we add them? We get them on here. Let's add them. So I'm just going to do a little copy paste so you see how I'm kind of fudging this all in here, and then we'll try and. All right, so try to set this up here. Okay, so we're not going to have heavy repeating blasters, but let's see. And I don't remember what missiles they said that they were. Let me kind of click over and see if I can see what they had said the missiles were again. Um, that way we can try and keep it as close as we can to what it actually says. And of course, I'm trying to figure out where the box art was that had that. Okay, so it's saying that we have just two heat-seeking missiles. Okay, or rampage missiles. All right. Well, we're going to call them some light missiles. Trying to keep it in here. Um, light anti personnel. All right. So, and I suppose what I should have done here, put one of those there. All right. And uh, I don't know if you would want to keep that about the same range or not, but I'm going to up this a little bit more. We're going to up that to about an 8D, figuring it's going to be kind of like a grenade, so it'll shoot out, and we'll go from there. Um, and of course, that's still going to be just going off the sleds here. But if they're supposed to be heat seeking, let's give it a 3D. So, just kind of giving a little bit more of a touch there. Um, just how it is. I think that kind of makes it a little bit more well balanced. Now, the interesting thing about snowmobiles, and this is one of the things, and people from up north here could probably have their own stories. Like I was saying, when I was in the army, I was trying to explain a snowmobile to somebody, and they would not believe me for anything. And it's funny because the moment I got them understanding what a snowmobile was, us crazy northern people, um, because of the way that they're built, you can actually run these on water for a short amount of time. And that's why they like them up in the Arctic areas because you can run it on like a river, and sometimes that's about the smoothest terrain you can get. but sometimes that ice starts breaking away on you. So if you're crossing a river, you just gun it and you just keep going as fast as you can. So a lot of people, when they're driving these things and they're driving on a river, they don't go slow. They don't just kind of sneak along. They're running full out. And if that ice breaks or cracks in, that way hopefully they can. The tracks will act almost like a paddle board or something like that, on the old big paddle boats or whatever, and it will keep you going for a little while. So, um, to finish my story here, in the middle of summer, sometimes they'll take some old snowmobiles and they will run them across what we call mill ponds, and sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't, and that's why they use old ones. If it doesn't make it and it's swamped into the mill pond and they have to drag it out, it's not a big loss to them. But once I kind of mentioned that, they looked at me and says, "Oh, I'm all uh, full of horse hockey here." So yeah, it's just a funny thing, but it is an interesting vehicle. Uh, and here again, it's another thing that I could always see in a rapid response force having something like this to say, "Hey, we have an Arctic mission. We need to be able to get somewhere fast." Something like this would work. To me, having a GI Joe force as a rapid response force is going to have a lot of light vehicles, not so many of the big heavy vehicles. Um, as much as I love seeing the bridge layer and all that, to me, I don't know if you would really have much of a bridge layer. I think you might have to tap onto your regular service to try and get a bridge layer there, and it might be more inconvenient. Um, but that's kind of my take on it. Um, you might have some other system that you can kind of fill that gap, but you're also going to have lighter vehicles. Uh, that's my take on if we're going to really try and redo GI Joe. It's going to be something where you have lighter vehicles that you can kind of get from here to there with. Um, in today's day and age, and looking at a lot of the stuff, maybe it's more like so you're using more of the my mind is drawing a blank on it. The Skyhawks, or yeah, like our Skyhawks, or some of the real small kind of aircraft, maybe small helicopters, our motorcycles, ATVs, stuff like that. Something that you can pack a couple into a plane, uh, do a touch and go, drop it out, and then the plane's gone, your force is there, and then they can kind of take care of themselves. So that's my view on it. If we're going to modernize it, why not do something more like that? Not saying you couldn't still have trucks and stuff like that. Stuff that would blend in a little bit more, but is done a little bit on the tactical side. That's my view of how I would kind of govern it. And the more off the shelf stuff that you can grab, the less specialization that you need to do, the better. If you have little modules, so you can just grab a snowmobile of any sort and put a kind of like a side mount of a cannon, because this is all going to be bare in the back, but something that will kind of just strap on here or bolt on real quickly to almost anything, and have a side machine gun or something would be wonderful. Um, or even if it's just, hey, grab a snowmobile from wherever, and we'll just use small arms fire. That would be fine too. But it's just my whole thing of, instead of trying to have specialized vehicles that are completely specialized, if we could just grab almost anything, so you can save costs, and then we have maybe a kind of small weapon system that we can just quickly bolt on, and that might have a little extra cost to it, but it's still a lightweight system that we can just grab almost from anywhere, put this thing on there, and then go. That would be wonderful. Um, because I think that would save the government a lot of money, in my view. And if it gets kind of destroyed for one reason or another, we can always just grab the expensive part, rip that off, throw it onto something else, and we're gone again. So, um, just my point of view on probably how to do things a little bit cheaper and a little bit better and faster. Um, but what do I know? Anyways, this is the view of the polar battle bear. Uh, Hope you enjoy the series. It's always fun bringing this to you, bringing my viewpoint of how to try and do something like this. Um, Whether you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. That's what it's there for. I do enjoy listening to people, and I enjoy having other people explain their point of view on things because I am nowhere near perfect, and I fully acknowledge that. And I'm willing to understand that there are maybe different ways that I should be looking at things, and I always appreciate it. So, have a good day. We'll see you in the next video.